Well, no one deserves to live like this. Every day, Terry, Rudy and their neighbours fear locals, many of them teenagers, who roam the streets, stealing, destroying properties and picking fights with anyone who stands up to them.
Let's go! Go on! I'll take the lot of you guys!
They think it's the Wild West.
I don't give a I'll smash your camera!
We don't feel safe in our house. We feel threatened all the time.
Well, wouldn't you love them for neighbours?
The young ones are just out of control.
Just look at it, it's horrible.
It's nasty, absolutely nasty.
No one deserves this.
Well, that's just unbelievable. You can't live like that.
No Australian should be living like this.
This is Australia's public housing system at its worst, from tenants living in absolute filth.
It smelled like death. It smelled absolutely like, wow.
To ratbags causing total chaos for their neighbours.
We shouldn't have to live like this. Something needs to be done about this generation.
It's a quiet street full of house-proud homeowners, but there's one public housing property too, and the neighbours say they've been putting up with trouble from them for years.
61-year-old Terry Wallace has got the scars to prove just how much trouble emanates from next door.
It's an ongoing thing. Every day they're screaming, yelling, fighting. It's really hard to live next door to these people.
3 generations of one family reside at the property, but it's the youngest teenage girl and her various boyfriends currently causing all the trouble. A neighbour filmed this incident, first her, then her boyfriend, screaming abuse.
What the you gonna do? Come on, do something! Everyone, come on! Let's go! Go on, I'll take the lot of you guys!
I've tried to speak to them, and they just give you all sorts of curry. You know, they threaten you, they blow up in your face.
Give me your scooter! Rub it around your head!
75-year-old Rudy was the target of this abuse.
When you were hearing that language and that abuse, what were you thinking?
Well, I was frightened, naturally, because they threatened to wrap the scooter around my head.
Last year, the young female was allegedly caught on CCTV stealing charity tins from a local shopping centre. This security vision captures another incident from last year, a stolen car attempting a burnout in front of the public housing property. It loses control, swiping a light pole, then a neighbour's car before smashing through someone's fence. The driver fled the scene and has never been found.
A big shock for the street?
Oh, yeah. You know, everybody's come home and it's like, looks like a war zone.
After years of complaints to the department without any action, Terry Wallace had enough. And after yet another screaming match from his neighbours, he decided to do something.
I was about ready to go to work, and I said to the wife, I said, look, I've had a gutful of this. I'm going over to tell them to shut up.
He says the young female and her new boyfriend were having an argument and throwing objects around the house.
I had a word with him to say, much to the effect of, every time you're here, you're nothing but trouble. Why don't you leave the house and just piss off, don't come back, you know? And then he come at me.
Terry says the young male punched him repeatedly in the face, fracturing his eye socket. He tried to hold on to him to stop the punches, but was eventually saved by his own son, who knocked the assailant to the ground.
I was having trouble hanging on to him. It was like I was fighting Superman. He was so strong and so hyped up and so angry.
How did you feel when you saw what happened to Terry here?
I just couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I opened the door and there's Terry standing with this big swollen up face.
Police are investigating the assault, but are yet to make an arrest.
Those people do not deserve to be in public housing.
Tim Mander is Queensland's deputy opposition leader. When he was the state's housing minister, he ran a hardline policy against problem tenants.
It is taxpayer-assisted housing. If you can't respect the property and respect your neighbours, well, you don't deserve to be in that, and those people should be kicked out.
This is horrible.
Here is another eye-watering case exposing public housing bureaucrats' lack of action.
This is our team, hard at work to start picking up the pieces.
John Kane says his cleaning company was called by the tenant asking for help, claiming all this was caused by a break-in and squatters.
Today here at RAD's Residential and Domestic Service, we're doing a volunteer job for a lady whose house was broken into. Brace yourselves because it's quite disturbing, but this is the stuff we have salvaged.
Only later did they discover this was a public housing property.
But regardless of the situation, if she's lied or not, you know, this woman can't live like this. No Australian should be living like this. You know, it's inhumane and unsanitary.
He says amongst all that filth was a hot chicken with a tag on the bag from 5 years ago.
I ran outside, I threw up, I was mortified, but I have not been able to eat since, you know, it's mentally scarred me. I never again am I eating chicken.
Clearing all the trash revealed significant damage to the property itself.
This is just horrible. This whole kitchen needs replacing. No matter how much you clean this.
That is just horrendous, that kitchen.
I just want to be sick because I touched the stuff on that cupboard.
Cayenne and Casey are also part of the small cleaning company called RADS. They're all concerned about suffering health effects.
It's disgusting. Like one of my crew members have pink eye.
Can you believe that someone's living like that?
It's hard to believe that someone could actually live in that, yeah.
Neighbours told them there was a history of complaints about the Queensland property. They want to know why a tenant has been allowed to live like this for years without proper inspections.
Housing Commission should have been onto this 5 years ago, you know, they can't let that accumulate.
What do you think this says about the Housing Department's attitude towards its properties?
It's disgraceful. Department of Housing should be doing their job, going out every 6 months or whatever, checking house inspections like they do with real estates privately, you know.
The cleaners informed the Housing Department of what they found and were told they were aware of issues at the property. Our inquiries for information were met with a no comment, citing privacy legislation.
It's a health hazard not only for her or whoever the person is in the house, but even the neighbours. I mean, that's going to attract rats and pests and that type of stuff. That's clearly unacceptable.
Terry Wallace says he was informed by his neighbour that they have been given an eviction notice following that violent assault in Morayfield, north of Brisbane. Again, the department refused to comment.
This is what it's taken to get rid of them.
It shouldn't have come to this, though, should it?
No, I shouldn't have to get an injury such as this in order to get something done. I mean, does it take someone being seriously injured or killed before we get the Housing Commission to actually do something about people?
Queensland's Housing Department told Terry the eviction process will now go to a tribunal before it's enforced, and we're going to watch that one closely. A statement from the department is on our website.